On November 24, 2019, the headlines moved faster than anyone could process. Within hours, the name Goo Hara trended not for a comeback, not for a performance, but for a tragedy that shook the K-pop industry to its core. Fans refreshed their timelines in disbelief. News anchors delivered statements in restrained tones. The same industry that had celebrated her brightness now stood still, stunned. For many, it felt like déjà vu, another young star gone too soon in an ecosystem built on perfection. But why did this loss feel heavier than just another headline? Why did it ignite conversations that refused to fade? To understand that night, we have to understand the image the world knew. Goo Hara debuted as a member of Kara, one of the defining girl groups of second-generation K-pop. She was marketed as lively, charming, and effortlessly cute, the kind of idol who could dominate variety shows and stage performances with equal ease. Fans saw confidence, cameras captured sparkle. Yet fame in South Korea is rarely gentle, especially for women navigating public scrutiny. By 2019, Hara's name had become intertwined not only with chart success, but with legal battles, online harassment, and intense media coverage. The night everything changed was not the beginning of pressure, it was the moment the world finally paused long enough to acknowledge it. This is not just the story of a final chapter. It is the story of how a young woman rose to the top of one of the most competitive industries in the world, what she achieved, and why her impact continues to echo in conversations about privacy, digital crime, and mental health today. The music may have stopped that evening, but the ripple it created has not. Before she was a headline, before she was a trending topic, Goo Hara was a teenager from Gwangju with a dream far larger than her surroundings. Born in 1991, she entered the entertainment world at a young age, navigating auditions and trainee life in a system that demands discipline long before adulthood. The K-pop trainee pipeline is famously rigorous: endless rehearsals, evaluations, diet restrictions, image training. For Hara, it meant learning to endure criticism as routine. Even before debut, idols are assessed not just on talent but on personality, appearance, and market fit. Survival requires resilience, but resilience developed too early can also mask vulnerability. Those early years built her stage presence, but they also trained her to absorb pressure quietly. Her breakthrough came in 2008 when she joined Kara, replacing a departing member during a transitional moment for the group. The timing was precarious. Kara had not yet secured its defining hit. That would change with Mr. and the viral hip dance, which propelled the group into mainstream success not only in South Korea but also in Japan. Goo Hara quickly became one of the most recognizable faces in the lineup. Her image was carefully crafted, energetic, sweet, approachable. Variety shows amplified that persona, turning her into a household name. Yet popularity carries expectation. The brighter the spotlight, the narrower the margin for mistakes. In Japan, Kara's dominance marked a rare moment of K-pop expansion into the market at that scale, and Hara stood at the center of it. The world saw a polished idol rising rapidly. Few noticed how early adulthood had already merged with professional obligation. Fame arrived quickly, and once it arrives, it rarely asks if you are ready. By the early 2010s, Goo Hara was no longer just a member of Kara. She was a defining face of second-generation K-pop. Mr. had opened the door, but follow-up hits like Lupin, Step, and Jumping cemented the group's dominance. Kara became one of the first girl groups to successfully expand into Japan at a historic scale, topping Oricon charts and filling large venues. Goo Hara's image, bright, playful, camera-ready, translated seamlessly across markets. Endorsements followed, magazine covers multiplied. She embodied the era when K-pop began transforming from regional success into a cross-border industry. Success was not accidental. It was synchronized choreography, relentless touring, language adaptation, and image discipline. Hara mastered all of it. Beyond group activities, she diversified. Acting roles, solo appearances, and television hosting broadened her presence. Her solo debut in Japan with Midnight Queen signaled an ambition beyond group identity. This was a critical phase in idol evolution, transitioning from ensemble member to individual brand. Few navigate it smoothly. Hara managed to sustain popularity while redefining herself. Her charm on variety programs made her relatable. Her stage persona remained polished. For many young fans, she represented the aspirational version of idol life, glamorous yet seemingly approachable. Yet icon status is a double-edged sword. The more visible you become, the more narratives others write about you. Public perception shifts quickly from admiration to scrutiny. At the height of her fame, Goo Hara stood at the center of a rapidly globalizing K-pop wave. She helped lay groundwork for the international expansion that would later define the industry's next generation. But the same visibility that amplified her achievements also magnified every misstep, rumor, and controversy. The breakthrough years built a legacy in charts and headlines. They also built an expectation that perfection must be constant, an expectation no one can maintain indefinitely. By the late 2010s, Goo Hara was no longer simply an idol navigating fame. She had become a headline magnet in a media environment that rarely forgets. The same industry that had elevated her image now amplified every controversy attached to her name. In 2018, her legal battle with a former partner became public, dominating news cycles for months. Allegations, counter-allegations, courtroom appearances, the details were dissected across television panels and online portals. What might have remained private in another era unfolded in real time before millions. In South Korea's highly digitized media culture, stories move quickly and linger longer. Each update fueled new comment threads. Each headline invited judgment. The personal became public property. The legal case also intersected with broader conversations about digital crime and non-consensual content. Goo Hara's situation was not just celebrity scandal, it was part of a growing awareness of revenge porn and the weaponization of private material. Her testimony drew national attention to the imbalance of power in such cases. For some observers, she became a symbol of resistance. For others, a subject of relentless critique. Public support coexisted with online harassment. The paradox was striking. While advocacy groups referenced her case in discussions about stronger digital sex crime laws, anonymous accounts continued to circulate malicious commentary. Success in entertainment had prepared her for cameras, not for courtroom flashbulbs and invasive speculation. Yet she stood before both. Beyond legal battles, the emotional toll of sustained scrutiny accumulated quietly. Public apologies were analyzed for tone. Social media posts were interpreted as signals. When she took breaks from activities, speculation filled the vacuum. In 2019, after a previous suicide attempt earlier in the year, she addressed fans directly through social media, assuring them she would recover and asking them not to worry. It was a moment of vulnerability rarely seen in a culture that often equates resilience with silence. But vulnerability in public can be a double-edged sword. Some responded with compassion, others questioned authenticity. The weight of expectation does not lighten simply because someone acknowledges strain. It can intensify. The industry's structure compounds this pressure. Idols are brands, investments, and public figures simultaneously. Agencies manage schedules and image, but control over public narrative is limited once stories circulate online. News portals in South Korea integrate comment sections directly beneath articles, allowing immediate reaction. For a figure like Goo Hara, whose life intersected with legal controversy and celebrity visibility, this meant living inside a feedback loop. Each development reignited discussion. Each discussion extended the lifespan of scrutiny. Over time, this creates what psychologists describe as cumulative stress, not one explosive moment, but a layering effect. Applause and criticism share the same channels. They arrive through the same notifications. Yet amid the turbulence, Hara's influence extended beyond performance. Advocacy around digital sex crime legislation intensified in 2018 and 2019. Lawmakers referenced cases like hers when debating harsher penalties for illegal filming and distribution. The public began confronting how technology can weaponize intimacy. In that sense, the weight she carried was not only personal, it reflected systemic issues within entertainment and digital culture. Success had opened doors. Controversy forced conversations. But conversations alone do not shield individuals from impact. By late 2019, Goo Hara had endured chart-topping success, international tours, legal confrontation, and intense media exposure, all before turning 30. The spotlight that once signified achievement now felt inescapable. And when greatness becomes inseparable from constant exposure, the cost can become difficult to measure. In the weeks before November 24, 2019, Goo Hara appeared to be rebuilding momentum. She had recently completed activities in Japan and maintained communication with fans through social media. Publicly, there were signs of determination, messages about working harder, about moving forward. After surviving a previous suicide attempt earlier that year, she had reassured fans that she would recover. That reassurance mattered. It created a fragile sense of stability, a belief that resilience had prevailed. Yet resilience is not linear. It does not guarantee safety simply because it is declared. On November 24th, she was found unresponsive at her home in Seoul. Authorities later confirmed her passing. The news broke quickly across Korean media and then spread globally within hours. For many, the shock was compounded by timing. Just weeks after another high-profile loss in the K-pop industry, the sense of pattern was impossible to ignore. Vigils formed outside her residence and at agency buildings. Fans gathered with letters, photos, and candles. Digital timelines turned into memorial walls. Television programs paused regular programming to address the tragedy and revisit her career highlights. The tone shifted from debate to mourning almost overnight. Official investigations described the case in restrained language, and there was no prolonged public spectacle. But silence did not lessen impact. Instead, it intensified the sense that something systemic had gone unresolved. Comment sections that once hosted harsh criticism now filled with regret and reflection. Opinion pieces questioned the structure of idol culture, the role of media sensationalism, and the normalization of malicious commentary. The day everything changed was not only about loss, it was about confrontation. Confrontation with the reality that success does not shield anyone from mental strain, and that public life in a hyper-connected society can amplify vulnerability. This is where many biographies end, at the moment of death, at the final headline. But stopping here would miss the larger arc. Goo Hara's final chapter did not close conversation, it expanded it. The shock transformed into scrutiny of digital crime laws, privacy protection, and online accountability. The timeline ended on November 24th. The consequences did not. After the mourning subsided, what remained was not only memory, it was momentum. Goo Hara became more than a former idol of a second-generation girl group. She became part of a broader reckoning within South Korea's entertainment and legal systems. Her legal battle had already drawn national attention to digital sex crimes. After her passing, public pressure intensified. Discussions about stricter punishment for illegal filming and distribution gained urgency. Lawmakers revisited policies. Media outlets reconsidered how comment sections were moderated. While systemic change is gradual, the cultural conversation shifted visibly. Her name began appearing not only in entertainment retrospectives, but in policy debates. Artistically, her legacy remains tied to the expansion era of K-pop. Kara's success in Japan helped lay groundwork for the international infrastructure later groups would benefit from. Younger idols cite that generation as proof that cross-border success was possible. Goo Hara's performances, variety appearances, and solo work are now revisited through a different lens, not just as pop entertainment, but as part of a formative chapter in the industry's globalization. The image of the cheerful idol still circulates in clips and fan edits, but it now carries deeper context. Legacy is not only about records or awards, it is about impact, intentional or not. Goo Hara's life illuminated the fragility that can exist behind polished images and the consequences of digital culture when empathy is absent. Her story continues to be referenced in conversations about online accountability, privacy rights, and mental health in entertainment. The spotlight that once defined her career now illuminates larger systemic issues. The music may have stopped in 2019, but the dialogue she inadvertently strengthened continues, and that is where her presence endures.